Hey everyone, Whale here. I have made a number of enhancements to the spreadsheet that I use for farming, so I'm going to go ahead and break this up into several videos so it's not like this big, massive hour-long segment, and explain the functionality of the new and improved spreadsheet. And then in subsequent videos, I'll go through a couple of examples of, say Padme, COS, or other common farms so you can kind of see an example of how it's used. Um, to start, basically, this spreadsheet is based on the notion that you know what gear you need for a farm. The easiest way to find that out is if you're using hot utils, you can go to the gear.swgohevents.com website. You can use this website without hot utils as well. Basically, however you do it, you need to be able to track with reasonable amount of effort what gear you need. Obviously, if you had to manually go through and count it up in the game, you're not going to want to do this. But assuming that you're using gear SWGOH events with or without hot utils, then hopefully this will save you a lot of time when it comes to farming. So let's get right into it. I should probably rename this too. But basically, the configurable stuff is here on the right. To kind of explain, this spreadsheet tracks a few things. It tracks what you need with fleet energy, what you need with normal energy, as well as what you need with cantina energy. And on top of that, there's a few special gear pieces that are tracked predominantly with formulas such as Mark III hollows and Mark VII shock pods and injectors. It also keeps track of shard shop currency because that's part of how you're going to accelerate a lot of these farms. So you can do them concurrently along with your normal fleet and cantina farms. So to kind of explain the color coding, if it's pastel yellow, that means that it's something you enter. And you would need to keep updated, like, for example, how many shock pods are needed. Orange is, orange is usually like a caution flag. So it basically means, hey, this is a formula. You probably shouldn't be touching it. Sometimes you will, but you probably won't need to much, if at all. So as far as shard shop currency, basically, if this is green, it means that you are currently generating enough shard shop currency based on how many days it's going to take you. And if it's red, that means that you're not generating enough shard shop currency and you would need to, cash in more fleet store currency or what have you to generate more shard shop currency. Now, I've been kind of mentioning this spreadsheet because this is a current farm, so it's not as cluttered as the template that you should duplicate from if you want to use this yourself. To kind of give you an idea, it's kind of a lot, right? So I'll come back to this in a second, but just know that everything not everything, but almost everything you would possibly need to keep track of for a farm will be in the template. And I've also included asterisks here of where you should get this stuff, because obviously this is all off the same node as shock pods, so it's the most efficient way to farm this. But if you can get, for example, bronzium wiring somewhere else, that's fine. The idea is just to eliminate bottlenecks with this. So, and we can stay on this one for a second because this has all the configuration stuff as well. For the fleet energy and energy per day, basically you start with 645 fleet energy and you would need to deduct whatever you're spending per day on farms. I'm farming shock right now, so I'm deducting 100. Similarly with the energy, this one's old. It's different in the Padme, but it doesn't really matter. Whatever you're farming with normal energy, same thing, you get 735 per day, and you want to subtract out what you're spending on a daily basis for farm. Cantina, this is calculated for you. You don't need to touch this, hence why it's orange. Cantina refreshes per week, that you can use to greatly influence the cantina, obviously. Like, I've got it at 6 right now, but say I had it at 2. Well, we see that 49 is a much bigger, not much bigger, but it is the bottleneck. So that shows that, hey, we're bottlenecked on cantina. So if you have the crystals for it, then you want to bump up your cantina refreshes, and you just eliminated that bottleneck. The idea is to have everything finish at roughly the same time so you're not constrained by anything. Okay, these drop rates, again, formulas, I mean, if they ever change those drop rates, I guess you would have to change those, but that's probably not going to happen very often, if at all. Shock pods and chirocomps, we want to try to capture the various sources that you get these and other gear pieces from every month. So right now, my guild is doing dark side geos, and we're doing light side hosts. So I get roughly about 13 a piece from the dark side geos. So that's where these numbers come from. These again are formulas based on the fact that you have a 50% chance of getting 3 shock pods a day and a 50% chance of getting 3 chirocomps a day, which is where that formula comes in. And then also it's based on how many challenge tier 1s for the assault battles that you can complete, because each one of those gives you 10 shock pods, 10 chiros, and as well as 5 of each injectors. So that's why these numbers are 10, because I have 2 assault battles I can do CT1 on. So that's where that number comes from. The chirocomps one is a lot bigger because, and just to kind of lay the groundwork here, I guess, almost all of this farming advice is based on Darth Liquidor's efficient gear farming guide. So I'll drop a card to it. You should probably check that out. It's a long one. It's like 2 hours. But that is the basis for where this information came from. And one of the things he recommends is to spend all of your GAC currency on chirocomps. So that's what we're doing. That's why this number is a lot bigger, because basically all of these are entry fields, and you have to, well, basically you just need to modify this for your division. This is assuming a 50% win rate, which is what, CG has designed GAC to be. So if you have a better win record than this, you're welcome to change it. But basically, you just need to put in how much currency you're going to get for a week where you go 1 win, 2 losses. How much currency for 2 wins, 1 loss. And you can see, basically for each round, win, loss, and as well as what you get at the end of the season. And it will calculate how much currency a month you get. And that will also feed into this calculation for chirocomps. So this will be useful for checking to see if chirocomps is going to be a bottleneck for a farm. Because we do want to avoid farming that node at all costs, because there are far more efficient nodes that we could be farming, such as the shock pod one on light side 7B. This is basically just going to be a guess. We are not only getting G12 gear from farming. We're getting it from Heroic Sith Raid, we're getting it from Conquest. Also, we have a chance to get it from Territory Battle, and at least not at all level Territory War, but there's various ways you can get this, including Galactic Challenges. So we kind of have to guess how much gear we're going to get from that. Now, this one's probably the most important. This feeds into these calculations for how many carbs and hollows you accumulate for the farm, as well as the Mark 8 Biotechs. The problem is this can't be a formula, because this feeds off these values. So to give you like actual numbers, and estimated days complete. Yeah, I haven't added the conditional format into this, but it's on the template if you wanted to duplicate it. So this is 38 days, which basically matches here. You may not get it exact, but you just want to get close. But the problem is I can't just have this be based on these here, because it will create a circular dependency with Excel. So you basically have to kind of just like manipulate it. As an example, in the template, right now it's in red because that basically means, hey, this is wrong, you need to set it. Say that this is a formula, but say just for the sake of argument, it was 83. Now you see it's green. Okay, so we're good there. But what if it was, say, 60? You kind of just have to tinker with it a little. It's going to be somewhere between 60 and 84 that you have to adjust for. 75 doesn't do it. Let's try 65. This number would actually keep going up if this was an actual farm. So actually, let's do it on the Padme one. Say, for example, I had this at 45. It's not highlighted, so again, but just go with it. We've got 39, 32, and 36. 39 is what we want to try to fine-tune this to because that's our constraint. So let's try 42. Okay, getting closer. 40. All right, so we're good. It is basically 39, but so that's what we'll leave it at. But basically, you want to get this number as close as possible to the max value of these. It's just you have to manually do it to avoid the circular dependency issue with Excel. Okay, so that's that for the Kairos. Now, the big one here is Carbonis, everyone's favorite thing to farm. You get 7 from Territory War, so, and you get 4 of those a month. And by the way, this is all assuming full participation. You're not skipping Conquest, you're not skipping GAC weeks or rounds. You're doing all your Territory Wars, etc., etc. You can buy them out of the guild store. You can also get them in the shard shop, so that's another option. But you can buy them out of the guild store, and you get about 60, I think it actually is 63, but for the sake of argument, let's just say 60 from the challenges per week. So that means you're getting 409 a month if you're buying 30 per week. Say you were buying 10 per week, you're going to get 329 per month. And then, again, these formulas are based off this number, hence why it's so important. So if you had a farm that was going to take 84 days, then that means you're going to get a little over 900 carbs for it, and 137 hollows, and 605 biotechs. The hollows, similarly, you get 7 per territory war, so this is kind of calculated off this times 4. And then also this, as well as the carb formulas, also include getting 21 from GAC, because you get around, depending on how well you do, you get 7 carbs and 7 hollows per week for 3 weeks a month. Okay. Basically, the Biotechs, you get about 54 a week. So that's basically where this comes from. There's not much to say there. So the idea being is this gives you everything you would need to try to identify bottlenecks and reduce them. So, for example, let's use this as an example, and I can just change these. I'm just going to do this as a test just to make sure I don't accidentally. So say we had 2 Cantina refreshes, say we needed 90 med packs. Let's say this was by default, and you don't have to change this, this just kind of helps me keep track of how many I'm spending or how many I'm buying with a fleet store currency per day. If you don't want to keep manually updating this value, you don't have to. My memory just sucks, so But so say you needed those, you got 2 Cantina refreshes, and let's say, I don't know, you're farming BAM. You need like a gajillion shock rods. No, I'm not salty at all. Maybe a little. So now we've got some bottlenecks that we need to try to reduce, right? So that's kind of where this comes from. So we see 49. Okay, that's more than 39, but not a big deal, right? 66. Obviously, that's the big bottleneck. Is there a way to reduce? Well, if there was, we would do so, and then we would kind of tinker with these values in this. Like, say, for example, you need 400 scanners. Well, we need more shard shop currency in this time frame than we are actually going to generate, so we could bump this number up. And that's kind of the general premise behind this. So the idea is that you would take this template, you're going to duplicate it to your own Google Sheets spreadsheet, and then you will keep what you need, and then you would jettison the rest. So as an example, say you want to duplicate this template, and I'm just going to toss some numbers in because, I'm going to go through an actual farm in subsequent videos. But say we need 50 of this, 100 of that, 100, 50, 40, 40. Cool. And let's say, for example, we do need some rhodiums. And that's another thing where this is designed to farm rhodiums off light side 9F, which will also give you bayonets and Mark 8 Biotechs, as well as the Mark 3 hollows that will feed into rhodiums. But if there's something else that you have a surplus of that you can use for rhodiums, then again, reducing bottlenecks is the whole point of this. So knock yourself out. So say I need a rhodium, say I need 30 of them. I don't have any hollows, so we're starting with no existing mats. But say you had 5 hollows, you would just put 5 there. So I don't need these, so we're going to delete them. I also don't need these. Say we're just going to Relic 5, we don't need the higher level Relic mats. Now you see, this creates a bunch of refs and it breaks some formulas. So this is where you just have to go through and get rid of this stuff. And the reason I do this, and you don't have to, you can just use the full template. It's just, there's a lot on screen if you do, and it's just easier for me to read if I don't have to look at like this big massive amount of numbers. I mean, to a certain extent you are anyways doing this, but you might as well reduce your task loading as much as possible. What is the date? 9. So you also don't need this. This is kind of just to keep track for myself of how long each farm takes. It's not necessary. You can just delete it from the template if you don't care about that, and that way you don't have to edit these or update them. Okay, so let's say we need 200 shock pods. We're going to need 50 of those, and then 50, 50, 50. Okay. And let's say we need some signal data. Cool. So now you notice it says you don't need to farm any shock pods, right? Wait, but that seems wrong. We need 200 of them, right? It's because this estimated days to complete, this value needs to be adjusted. That's why it's in red. Your big constraint right now is 32, but we know we can manipulate that with Cantina refreshes. Oh, there you go. So 2 Cantina refreshes gets you to 26. So we need, this actual number needs to be somewhere between 84 and 26. So let's just try 50. Well, that was pretty close actually. Yeah, so, and now you see this is within, and this is actually based just on this cell. I should actually change this to be the max of, these 3 cells. So I'll do that after this video. But basically, this is within one or two of these, which means this is set properly. And now you see the shock pods formula is calculated properly, as well as the Mark III hollow one is properly. But this also shows, hey, we have a constraint that we'll have to deal with. And then let's say we need, some stuff from the shard shop currency. So some of this stuff we need to keep, some we don't. Well, don't need any Mark IV back to gel for this little contrived example. We don't need this stuff. Gonna get rid of the Mark 12 HoloLenses, as well as these. So you can kind of see already it's getting a lot cleaner. And also, if you're not actually farming any tunes for this farm, you don't need this part. If you're farming something for a future farm, I mean, you should be doing that. You should be hitting a fair number of hard nodes every day. But unless you need it for your current farm, you don't really need to track it here. Like, if you're working on shock clones and you haven't farmed shock up completely, shock should go in the fleet farm here. And you should make sure that you're not going to get held up by that, because, again, it could be a bottleneck. But if you're just farming stuff for the future, then you don't need this. So we can just get rid of it. And then I get rid of the headers because it's just kind of confusing. So all this stuff we don't need. It'll probably actually be a lot more fleshed out if you are using the shard shop a lot, which is a great way to reduce bottlenecks. And also, you notice the ref here, this got broken because this is based on the max of these 3 values. but also the total farm value. So you would need to remove the pointer to the total farm value because it does not exist anymore. Oh, I missed the exclamation. Okay. So we get rid of these. It's going to break one more thing, the shard shop currency, because I've tried to make the formulas do as much of the work for you as possible. So your only job is, as you refresh hot utils and you look at your events, you have to keep these needed amounts updated on the spreadsheet. Now, you may be thinking, well, that's probably too much work. I don't want to do that. Well, also keep in mind, doing this spreadsheet, I was told it would take 6 to 8 months for me to get Executor. I got it in 4. Also, you're generally farming one thing at a time, so there's usually just one thing you're going to have to update. For example, with normal energy, it's going to be like this for a lot of farms where you're just hitting the shock pod node for days and days and days. So the only thing that you get from normal energy that you would have to keep updated is this number. I don't think that's that much work. So keep that in mind. I also don't update this every day. I update it a couple times a week, and you could probably even get away with just doing once a week. Because, for example, if you need 200 shock pods, you're going to be hitting that node on normal energy for a long time. If you need 100 furnaces, you're going to be hitting that node for fleet energy for a long time, and so on and so forth for signal data and for what you need in the shard shop. So the idea was to make the formulas do as much of the work as possible, and you just have to keep these input fields updated every so often, and you will be able to not only know when your farm is going to finish, but also speed it up as much as possible. Okay, I think that gives us a pretty good overview of the template, and then what I'll do in the next video in this series is we are going to go through an actual farm. For example, I'm working on Padme right now. Well, technically Padme team for R5 and also Thrawn for R5 to finish my Empire team, but we're going to go through the process of taking the template, duplicating it to a new sheet, and then actually filling it out for that farm. And I believe I have it listed. So this is the farm that we're going to be going through on the next video. And what I'll do is I'll do a third video as well to kind of explain some additional tips and tricks, and if those demand, then I can make a couple more to go through a few additional farms